So hi everybody, welcome along to Tuesday morning. And those of you online, welcome along to our class. As you can see, we're doing a review on this topic called how to meditate. And of course, our classes always begin with a breathing meditation. Then we set our motivation and then we sort of engage in the class material. As we go through the class, as we go through the material, there'll be places where we can actually pause and ask questions. And there's also a portion that will be devoted to meditation itself. Let's begin as we normally do by doing this first meditation. So this requires you to become quite comfortable in your chair. Just make sure that your sort of back is straight, your shoulders are relaxed, your hands are placed somewhere where they feel quite at ease. Now you can either close your eyes or keep them slightly open. All that's required of us is to let the body breathe itself. And as the body continues to breathe itself, become aware of the movements that are also taking place and perhaps the feelings that are associated with those movements. So your focus is upon the movements that take place as you inhale and exhale breath. And while the mind is focused upon those movements, allow the body to relax completely. And being relaxed and focused, it's very easy to imagine the Shakyamuni Buddha and the spiritual entourage of the bodhisattvas and deities and protectors appear in the space in front of you. Each being is radiant with golden light. And while the Buddhas and the spiritual entourage appear in the space in front of you, imagine you're also surrounded by all sentient beings. And these sentient beings include your parents, your brothers and sisters, relatives, friends, strangers, and difficult people. Then ask yourself, what do you have in common with the difficult people, the strangers, and your friends and family? And all of us wish to be happy. And none of us wish to experience suffering. Now, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and the spiritual entourage in front of us, they no longer experience suffering. The causes of their suffering have been completely abandoned, and they possess all good qualities. And if we rely upon the spiritual entourage, the Buddha and his teachings, we too can put an end to suffering and its causes and develop all of our good qualities. So decide to do that, but not just for yourself. Think that by freeing oneself from suffering and its causes and developing all good qualities, you'll be perfectly placed to help other people do the same. So decide to do that. Think that you want to help others put an end to their suffering. You want to help human beings put an end to their suffering, the animals, the deities who abide within cyclic existence, the gods, the hungry ghosts, and so forth. I think that this accomplishment that you seek is possible because of the nature of the mind. The mind being luminous and empty of any intrinsic nature. So with this wish to overcome suffering and its causes and to develop all good qualities, join me in saying, I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Then, in response to this wish of ours, think the colourful nectars and lights shower down from the radiant beings in the refuge field. And whatever wrong views we have, whatever bad behaviours we have, all of these are completely removed along with their causes. And being cleansed by the wisdom and love of the enlightened beings, we recollect the four immeasurable thoughts of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and decide to establish these within ourselves and help all beings develop these within themselves. So join me in saying, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And in response to this prayer of ours, again, colourful nectars and lights shower down from the radiant beings in the refuge field. Now, whatever hinders these four boundless thoughts is removed. And recollecting the beings of the refuge field and wishing to possess similar qualities as they do, we prepare ourselves to gather the two accumulations of merit and wisdom to become enlightened. And so we say, reverently, I state with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginning this time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own and others' merits to the great enlightenment. So they're acknowledging what keeps us within the state of cyclic existence, which is clinging to ideas and the wrong behaviors that follow from those clingings. And so wishing to eliminate greed and selfishness from our own mental continuum, we acknowledge the wisdom of emptiness and apply it to ourselves and to the aggregate of the body, the aggregate of form, and see that it has no intrinsic existence. We imagine it to appear now as a wonderful pure land that you're going to offer to the Buddha and the spiritual entourage to bring us closer to enlightenment itself. And so we say, this ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned Mount Mary, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as the Buddha field and offer. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. The Buddha accepts the offering we've made. He smiles at us, and we look up into his eyes. And in his eyes, we find immense humility, kindness, and acceptance. And so earnestly, we ask for 3 things to happen. We ask of the Buddha to help us stop all wrong thoughts and help us develop all the correct, right thoughts. And we ask for help in removing our inner, outer, and secret obstacles. And then we say, please, Guru Buddha, bless us and all beings like us who understand dependent origination and emptiness and compassion, and wish to repay the kindness of all sentient beings through the development of the mind of enlightenment. So in response to this wish of ours, a replica of the Buddha leaves his heart, and it moves through space and comes to rest above the crown of your head. Facing in the same direction as you are, this replica, this emanation of the Buddha, begins to descend. It enters the crown of your head, comes down through your throat and into your chest, and rests just above your heart. And resting there, its radiance begins to expand, filling your torso, your limbs, and your mind with light. And this light goes out through the pores of your skin and begins to fill the 10 directions of space. And wherever beings abide, they always abide within space. The being within space, these sentient beings are absorbed by this light and utterly transformed into the fully awakened state. The feeling of great accomplishment arises within you. It acknowledges no difference between yourself and other, and that self and other are mere names. And the light begins to withdraw from the 10 directions, and it re-enters your heart. You become aware of the seat you're sitting on and your own body breathing itself. And you understand that this meditation is one of imagination. But even so, it has imprinted the mind with conditions for fully awakening. The thing that you wish to cultivate those conditions by relying authentically upon an authentic spiritual teacher, to take advantage of the leisure and opportunity you have with this life, and to do it now. Do it as quickly as possible, because as you're all aware of, death can overtake us at any moment. So to decide to make this life meaningful by engaging in this path altruistically. And then breathe in through your nostrils and exhale through your mouth. Allow your eyes to flutter open if they're closed. And just bring your attention back to the screen. Okay. So this is our 9th class. In other words, there's been 8 classes that have been before this. And what we've covered is meditation, its types and purpose. We look at the postures of meditation and how we can use breath and visualization. To recognize we're going to meet up with obstacles when we try to meditate, and that there are ways of removing those obstacles. Probably one of the most simple ways of removing obstacles, it doesn't require much on your part, it just requires you to recollect impermanence. That phenomena just change. They're never continuously stable. They won't stay there. We looked at precious human rebirth and equanimity, and we discussed a little bit about dedication. And so today, we're basically going to review all this material. So I come up with this picture here today because a couple of days ago I found online, you see these things all behind this on the side of the monk? They're all wood blocks, and they're huge, as you can see, like this. I don't know how many tons of them there are there. It's one of the largest collections of the Buddhist teachings, and they're in Korea. But I like I pulled them out. I was like, wow, it looks like a computer. You just slide in the hard drive, you pull them out. Yeah. Now, to review the material, there are basically 9 questions that are in one of the books you might have. And I'm going to answer them, but it's in a different order than they've been asked, just because I think it flows better as a presentation from me to you. So we're going to begin with question 6, and then we go 1 to 5, then 7, 8, 9. So question 6, which will be coming up shortly, is about the motivation. But to help me present this material, you can see here I've relied upon quite a number of different books, because this topic is very large, actually. I mean, all the topics in the Buddha Dharma are quite wide and deep. And these particular books all have all assisted me in presenting this material. So let's begin by having a look at the motivations for meditating. So this question says, what's the importance of motivation in meditation practice? Discuss this. So can anybody remember why we meditate? What's the point?
To familiarize ourselves with positive states of mind.
Okay, yep. So to familiarize ourselves with positive states of mind. Yep.
Still your mind from thoughts.
To still the mind from thoughts. Yep, there's parts that we actually do that. Yep.
Understand how our mind works.
Yes, to understand how the mind works. That's right. And to work in harmony with it. Okay, and so, Debbie?
Online, Helen said to reduce negative states of mind.
Yeah, that's right, to reduce negative states of mind and to increase positive states of mind. In fact, one of the simplest ways of describing the Buddha Dharma is to increase the positive, decrease the negative, and understand it's all about the mind. Debbie?
Sue also added for benefit of this life, future lives, liberation, or Buddhahood.
Yeah, it's very good. Yep, so we want to decrease the negative, increase the positive. And so, well, when? We could do it for this life, future lives, to produce a state called liberation or enlightenment. So, we're here in this life, and we are engaged in the practice of the Buddha Dharma and meditation, probably to remove difficulties and be happier in this life. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the thing that most often draws Westerners, at least, to a meditation center. A second motivation would be for future lives. So we know that this life is going to come to an end. So the goal here, when we aim at future lives, is called high status. So what does high status refer to? High status refers to lives that are not within the lower realms. That's what's called higher. So what are those lives that are not in the lower realms? Well, this one we've got. So we want to be reborn as either a human being or what they call a deity or within sort of the higher realms. This is the high status. But of course, we've accomplished that already. We're here. So we have high status. Of course, it's not easy being a human being, is it? I mean, there's all sorts of difficulties we go through. So we thought, is that the process? We just go like high, then low, high, then low, high, then low. Yeah, well, okay, it's better high than low, but the Buddha says, no, actually the practice of Dharma is to put an end to that these uncontrollable states of the high and the low rebirth. Putting an end to that is called liberation. This means a complete personal freedom from samsara. Now, samsara is not out there. So samsara is not an object of our senses. Samsara is the inner state of confusion that we experience every day. The state of having no control over your body and mind. That's samsara. Now, the final motivation for meditating, and the one we're always encouraged to state and to try to move our lives in harmony with, is called Buddhahood. And here, the goal here is to achieve two purposes. So what are the two purposes? Our own and the purposes of others. When we achieve liberation, it's a personal freedom. So you accomplish your goal, you've achieved your purpose, freedom from suffering and its causes. Then you'll know that your brothers and sisters, your parents, they're all still going through the same difficulties. And I'm sure most of us would think, if I could do something for my children, I would. I mean, we do that right now, don't we? So we try and help them, and this is the goal, to bring about one's own liberation and help others do the same. Now, before we just go, so this life, right? So we're meditating to be happier in this life. Now, there are many different techniques you can use to be happier in this life, right? Other than the Buddha Dharma. So some of you might be familiar with cognitive behavior training, mindfulness-based stress reduction, There's also cultivating emotional balance. There's a system called RAIN. And there's also Byron Katie's work and the meta-cognitive therapies that you can get your hands on. All these will help us lead happier, better lives. But of course, we'll always end up dying. Right? That's a given. And when death takes place, there's only really two ways of thinking about it, isn't it? It's going to be nothing or there's going to be something. So if there's something, well, then we should perhaps get ready for it. Do our best to get ready. So these are the primary motivations for meditating. You're aiming for the happiness of this life, future lives, bring about a state of personal liberation, freedom, or Buddhahood for the welfare of all beings. And just as you've said, the purpose here is to cultivate positive states of mind and to decrease the negative states of mind. So, of course, these words positive and negative can mean all sorts of things, don't they? What do you think it means in this context? Basically, positive, you'd say, leading more towards the happy, what we call happiness, or liberation or Buddhahood. And the negative would be the samsaric states of mind, the lack of control that we have over our being.
And Thea and Sue both said virtuous and non-virtuous.
Yep, that's another way of putting it too, yep. To cultivate the virtuous states of mind, because we know that these are the causes for happiness of this life, future life, liberation, and Buddhahood. And the non-virtuous states of mind prevent those things from occurring. Sandy? Yeah, so Sandy's saying also to develop insight. Yeah. And stabilization of mind, as you pointed out before. You need a stable mind so we can use it to produce insight into reality. Now, when we meditate, there are many different types of posture that we can get into. You can lie down to meditate. You can stand up. You can do it walking, and you can do it sitting. And each of these things, when you sit, there are different types of objects you can sit on. You can sit on your seat. You can sit on the floor. You can sit on a cushion. So whatever we're sitting on, though, then we sort of adjust our posture. And so, in other words, our body. We'll look at the posture now. So, especially on these topics called the Lamb Rim, stages of the path to enlightenment. When we're doing this analysis, the eyes look downwards. And other different types of meditation, they can look straight ahead or they can actually look upwards and they can be quite wide open. Sometimes they'll be very closed. But when we're analyzing, especially stages of the path, it's you slightly close them. So there's a little bit of light coming, they're relaxed. But the eyes are sort of like, the physical eyes are going down here. The mental goes up there. The eyes are sort of fixed, so they're not staring. Like if you go like that, you can just sort of see, for me at least, there's a little bit of the side of your nostrils you can sort of see. If you're doing that, you'll know, okay, I've got it right. That's what I'm sort of seeing. And another thing you do, you try and align your nose and your navel. That's so you get this nice straight line then. And the breathing should be sort of effortless, natural. And other types of meditation, it's not the case, but in this one, it's a natural breath. You try and keep your teeth and lips natural. So that means they're not tightly pressed together. There's a little space, so it's relaxed. Face is relaxed. The tongue goes behind the upper teeth. So when you first begin, this is unusual. We don't normally do that, do we? So the idea for that is to stop dribbling. So like, when you sort of sit there for a while, if you get very good at this, that's what happens. You'll start to drool. So you put your tongue up behind your upper teeth and that'll stop that. Of course, there's other reasons too, but that's the most, just this level we're talking about. Got to keep your shoulders straight and even. So oftentimes what I do is like, you can sort of start off doing the wrong thing and then you adjust, like lean forward, you go, no, that's too far. Yeah, that's about right. That's too far. Yeah, it's about right there. You can, go to the side. No, that's not it. So, do this sort of thing, play around until you find the right place. Okay, so now I'm sitting down, like on guard. It's like goes like kind of like a book on my head, or the Buddha's sitting right there up on my crown, straight like this, and now I look down. And you'll see your spine straight. Now, that's the most important thing of this whole posture, to have a straight spine. But saying that, it's also to have the body relaxed. And then, of course, you can uncross your legs. So we are not that common with this proper Vajra, what they call, Vajra posture, where you put one foot up on one thigh and the foot on the other. If you're sitting on a cushion or on the floor, the major thing is to be comfortable. Find a way of putting your feet or legs. That's the major thing. The major thing, like I said, is just to have your spine straight, have your back straight up, and to be relaxed. So once you've got into your posture, start checking now to see if you are actually relaxed. And one of the simplest ways you can relax the body is to smile. There's, I think, between 40 and 80 muscle groups in the face. Naturally relax as soon as you smile. And you can play with this just to see what it feels like. So when you feel like you're getting tighter, if your shoulders get tighter and you feel more pain, then acknowledge it, but then just go, okay, maybe I'm too tight. But and just like I said, just put a smile, and see what happens. And this whole relaxation response comes. So the question here is in the second question, why is this posture important? Well, one of the major reasons is called as conducive to developing pliancy. So, of course, the question is, what's pliancy? Anybody come across this word before? Pliant? What does it mean? What do you think?
Flexible.
Flexible. That's right. So what it brings, it makes the mind and body flexible. That's a major, a really important thing. Also, it leads to what they call non-exhaustion. You don't get to if you do it for quite some time. It's also uncommon for others because, of course, non-Buddhists don't often sit like this in this particular posture. So it's also to provoke inspiration. So we see that because you look at the Buddha. So the Buddha sat like this. So you also see, you look at Buddha's faces, there's a smile on it. And of course, it's used by the Buddhists. Now, when you come across the different texts talking about the posture, of course, I'm going through it very briefly and just pointing out some things. When you go into it in depth, it's quite large. They talk about different inner states, what it can do with the body, the channels, the symbolism of it, and so forth. And of course, that's all very interesting. And as you read through it and get through it, you can go, oh, okay, that's even better. You can enhance your own knowledge by reading a bit more and studying. But I suppose the major thing for us as beginners is just to get used to the posture, find a way of doing it. As most of us are a bit older now, chairs are probably going to be the things we're going to be sitting in. If we're probably not going to be sitting on the floor. So if you sit on a chair, like I said a couple of weeks ago, these chairs are not good chairs for meditating in. So when you sit in a chair, make sure that your hips are higher than your knees. And if possible, get a 4x2 or a piece of timber or something that you can put on the back, underneath the back legs of your chair. So the chair gets tilted up like that. Why I'm saying that? Because it makes it very easy to sit. It doesn't require a lot of effort. Your knees will be below your hips straight away. And just because of that, the body naturally, the spine naturally becomes straight. So Debbie last week pulled out those little seats that they use in the Zen tradition. So you notice all of them are sloped. That's to help you have this correct posture. So, question time. Is there anything you'd like to ask? Is there anything interesting? Yes, Debbie.
Not so much a question, but a comment. But I guess it's so important to get your posture right because organically it takes a while for the mind to settle. So you've got to think of it like a marathon. It can't be a sprint, right? So if you don't get your posture right, you're not going to last the marathon of the meditation, even if that marathon for you might be 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. In fact, one of the books I had, I've got, it's in the library, but I've also got a copy. It's called The Posture of Meditation. It's only a very small book. But he talks about, like, just as Debbie said, how important it is to get your posture right. And if you can get that right, meditation becomes a lot easier for you. Other things what you'll discover, of course, is how tight your body is, how much pain there is involved in the body. So when you find out that, then it might be useful to, what I do is I go online, I find these different exercises, like there's Tai Chi stuff, there's yoga things you can do. You know, there's that simple stuff like the cat-cow posture and the child posture. They're really simple to do. And they help to stretch things out a bit. So I've also got a whole little series of different rubber balls. And I put them up against my wardrobe and I lean on them and push my background like this to loosen up all the muscles in the back here. If you sit for a while, like for me at least, it gets tight. And then it's sore, and then you have to sort of stop. But if I break it up beforehand, it stops like this. I can actually feel that sort of energy moving. So in brief, so we've gone through the motivations for meditating. We know they can be for this life, future lives, liberation, and enlightenment. And basically, we're trying to decrease the negative states, increase the positive states. Right? And we know it's all dependent upon the mind. And we have this posture for meditating. So let's do a short meditation.
Before we do, Anthea said, my friend who has recently completed her yoga teacher training told her that this is why yoga was invented, to train your body for sitting comfortably in meditation.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Anthea. Okay, we're in our seat, so just move yourself around till you feel quite comfortable, and that you are upright, feeling grounded. Now, guide your gaze inward. And let your presence be unfocused, relaxed. So as a Buddhist who's engaged in the practice of meditation, the motivation must extend beyond this life's fleeting happiness. The purpose of meditation is to be aimed towards a virtuous rebirth, liberation, or full awakening to benefit all beings. And our ordinary actions, the actions we engage in every day, can become a profound practice when it's imbued with these loftier intentions. We're trying to bring a profound purpose to your motivation, to your meditation. So just as a vast river's current will carry the raindrops to the ocean, in the same way our spiritual intentions guide our experience into the flow of Dharma. So how can we encourage this pure stream of awareness to elevate the mundane into sacred practice? Well, we do this through motivation. So our initial motivation is to seek a fortunate rebirth through abandoning non-virtue. A middling type of motivation yearns for freedom from cyclic existence by overcoming all the afflictions. The greatest motivation we can encourage within ourselves is the mind of enlightenment. The awakened heart striving towards Buddhahood for all sentient beings. But you decide which motivation is most suitable for you, which one you'd like to develop and cultivate. And you decide to take this motivation, this intention, out of this class and into life itself. And then breathing in deeply through your nostrils. Exhale through the mouth. And if your eyes are closed, just allow them to open now. Blink a little. And we'll come to our next slide. So here, as we've mentioned, there are a number of different types of meditation we can engage in. So here are about 7 types. There's actually more. But in brief, we've got 2 types of meditation, one called stabilizing and one called analytical, and there are different names for these two. So I've put this in this blue color and the others in, I think, black, to show that this is where we're going to sort of be focusing on, what we call stabilizing and analysis. There's also objective and subjective meditations we can engage in. So an objective meditation is like when you're meditating on something like impermanence or death and dying and so forth. Others are what they call on the subjective side, is when we actually want to make the mind become like a mind of compassion, a mind of loving kindness. So we want to transform something, but the others are sort of like you're back a bit, but you know something. We don't need to transform ourselves into impermanent beings, or things we're already impermanent, right? We just need to become familiar with that state. Okay, there's nothing stable within this continuum of body, speech, and mind. Review meditation. So these are very common within this tradition. Wishing and prayers. So like we did the 4 immeasurables, so that's that wishing prayer. Along with it, of course, is always this imaginative aspect. So what the Tibetans have done is they've combined a lot of material together when it comes to actually meditating. But they've brought all this imaginative stuff. And so, as you know, we began meditating. It's like, okay, the Buddhas are over there. I'm sitting here. I'm surrounded by all sentient beings. That's imagination, isn't it? And then we have these different wishes and so forth. There's also another practice called a puja. So this is like an offering ceremony. So we have these, I think, at least twice a month here. Where you come along and you bring some food, some flowers, perhaps you make money donations or whatever. Now, one of the major reasons for this is if we look at what are the causes to have this life that we have, the body and mind of a human being who can engage in Dharma practice. Well, one of the major causes is generosity. Generosity provides us with the resources. It's like, if you give, you get. So we have these particular types, we make offerings, and then we do these different practices. And then we have two other types of practice. One is called a sadhana, and the other is called dance. Sadhana is just is a manual for practice. That's all it is. Right? And in that manual, you'll have phenomena like going for refuge, developing the mind of enlightenment, the four immeasurable thoughts, 7 limbs, mandala practice, a visualization of the merit field, and so forth. And then so it's all part of the sadhana. And then as you go through, there'll be other aspects of it you do. So often in Galupa, at least, there's always like a lamb rim prayer. So in other words, you're going to do a review of the whole path. And then there's going to be one aspect you might focus on. You might focus on death and impermanence, or fortunate human rebirth, or impermanence, or selflessness, whatever. It could be any topic. But you sort of go through and you go a number of topics, and you'll sort of stop there. And now you do your actual meditation. You finish it, you do the last little bits. And then that's the end of that practice. Like I said, it's a manual for practice. Dance is not something that we do very frequently, but it's certainly something done in India, and it was done a lot in Tibet. And it is a meditation practice. So it's not like, going out there and dancing like we normally do. It requires a lot of focus and attention. Know where your feet are moving, what it all means, where you're standing, all these sort of things. Yeah, so what wasn't up, what I haven't put up, and I think is very useful to remember, is always this word meditation, what it means. It means to become familiar with something or to cultivate something. The something is, virtue. Cultivate the positive qualities of the mind. Become familiar with the positive qualities of the mind. Become familiar with the negative and abandon them. Now, we've got stabilizing and analytical. Stabilizing meditation is often called placement meditation. So you're just placing your mind on an object, and you want to keep it on it stably. So it's got these two different names, but they're basically referring to the same thing. So now we're going to have a look at stabilizing meditation. Then we'll look at what we can place the stable mind upon, and then we'll look at the analytical side of it. Now, what is meditative stabilization? This quote is taken from Asanga's Bodhisattva levels. And it says, it is the one pointed state of mind that stays fixed on its object of meditation without distraction to other things. It's nice and simple, isn't it? Now, whether it is orientated toward calm abiding, toward insight, or toward both as the path that conjoins them, understand that this one-pointed state of mind is the Bodhisattva's meditative stabilization. So you can see here it's got whether it's orientated towards calm abiding, towards insight, or towards both. These are the objects that you can place your mind upon, that your mind can become stable with. Asanga in the Bodhisattva levels explains that to focus on something single-pointedly, we have to know the object thoroughly. Knowing the appropriate objects on the Bodhisattva path necessitates studying the scriptures and listening to explanations of them. Then we must analyze and try to understand what these teachings mean. We can develop a virtuous mind that abides single-pointedly on an object only with study and analysis. It's like, know what you're doing and then put your mind on it. So like here at the moment, we're engaged in the first part. It's called study. And what that study at the moment is you're just listening. So you listen to what I say. Then you go, well, I'm interested in meditation. You say, you might go and pull out a book. That you start reading about this, how to do this, what are the objects and so forth. Then you might think about it, reflect upon it. So suddenly when you finally do go through these three stages that you want to meditate on it. So it's like you say, well, in a way, it's a bit like a marriage. So before you get married, you want to know something about your marriage partner, don't you? You perhaps like to meet them. Right? So this is very much like, then you get married, right? But it's after you meet them, after you know something about them. So meditating is like that. You sort of learn a bit about the topic and you go, okay, now I'm in. And that's when you sort of absorb. You place your mind on it, you stably start, trying to realize something about this object. Now, there are plenty of objects you can meditate upon, like I said, like he's saying here, objects of virtue. So these objects could be phenomena like kindness, like wisdom, but it could also be like an object itself. So the object Lama Tsongkhapa suggests, and this is not an easy object, is the Buddha. Now, I would suggest before doing the Buddha that you start with something much simpler, which is the body, whether it be the breath or the feeling of the body sitting on a seat. You need some sort of something that you can actually put your mind on. It's simple. Breath is good because you're always breathing. So you can do it when you're in a meditation center or out there in the world. And of course, I think there's about 60 or 20 different ways you can meditate on the breath. And I like what Corey Jackson says. This is like when you begin, make it as easy as possible for yourself. Right? So, in other words, if you focus on the breath and the body, make it anywhere. You want a big object. And when you get, okay, now I've got that, I can do that, then you make the object a bit smaller. Then you might bring it down to your belly. Then you might bring it up to your nostrils. So the object becomes smaller and smaller, more subtle. You ask why? To make the mind more focused. Because you can actually place it on the objects, but they're large, right? It's easy. You find it's not so easy when the object becomes smaller and more subtle. Now, Buddha is not an easy object to meditate on because we're not familiar with them. So that's like from some other culture, isn't it? And they sort of look like this, or as the statues you can see behind me. So all these statues and pictures, of course, are symbols that represent something else. So what is the something else that these phenomena are symbolic of? Well, it's good qualities, mental qualities. Even though we're looking at a picture, it's that we need to understand, well, what does the picture mean? What's it symbolizing? What's that statue meaning? So this is what they're saying. So we need to become familiar with this, and then we place our mind on that object. So why the Buddha? Well, there's lots of reasons. I've just mentioned a few here. One is to easily recollect the qualities. So whenever you look at a Buddha, what's the first thing that pops to mind? Anyone? What pops to your mind?
Wisdom, compassion.
Wisdom, compassion,
Love.
love, yeah. The eyes, okay,
Sue said the eyes.
yeah.
Peaceful.
Sorry?
Peace.
Peace, yeah. Peace, I feel like enlightenment itself. I just see the Buddha go enlightenment itself. That's what appears to me. Go, okay, there's this phenomenon called enlightenment, and this guy did it. This person called the Buddha did it. Then we go like, what is enlightenment? Then we sort of drill down that one. So it helps us easily recollect the qualities, the good qualities that we're able to discover or develop ourselves. Secondly, it really helps at the time of death. Anybody tell me why?
Keep my,
Is it keeps the mind calm? Debbie?
It makes, because it's a virtuous object,
Yeah.
it's gonna get you on the track of thinking virtuously, so therefore you're gonna hopefully ripen virtue rather than negative karma.
Yeah, so one of mine is focused on the Buddha, which is, the greatest virtue. I mean, it symbolizes all virtues, the highest possible virtues, enlightenment itself. So what your mind is focused on,
it's not vegetarian.
yeah, it's not agitating you. You are in a virtuous state of mind.
If Buddha is your refuge, or then
You have a
Refuge.
virtuous state of mind. You have virtue, you have refuge. Yeah. So, like I often say, we try, I mean, there's so much material in the Buddha Dharma. You kind of, for me, you got to not, I'm going to say dumb it down, but make it simple for yourself. Right? So you understand, okay, when I'm thinking of a Buddha itself is an object of virtue. This object is not separate from my mind. When my mind is engaged in it, my mind takes on the form of Buddha. That's virtue. And this is why I often say Guru Yoga is so important. And often when I see those films now, at one stage I didn't like it, but now I get it. You might have seen those films where somebody's dying in bed and then a priest will rush in and quickly try to convert them, bring them to God, to the Lord, to Christ, whatever, And of course you can hear people say, well, you shouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. But now once you understand this, you go, well, of course, why not? You're trying to encourage this person to have a good death, to familiarize the mind with virtue. That's the goal here, isn't it? And now my sister, just as she was dying, so she's not a religious person. So I said to her, think of all the good you've done in this world. Like she goes like, what? I said, you raised a daughter. You raised a daughter. That takes a lot of good. It's virtuous. Things to bring up a child, a lot of goodness has to be expressed to do that, doesn't it? So a simple thing like that. So as I said, don't make it too hard for yourselves. Like we're all going to die, and we all want to die with a good, virtuous mind. So try and make it as simple as possible so you can easily go there. But it comes to you easily. Debbie?
And yeah, I also added that visualizing the Buddha helps you to recollect your best qualities.
It certainly does. That's right. Yeah. So another thing is like the refuge deepens. So again, this is interesting. We need to make it simple. What does refuge mean to us? Where is our refuge? What is refuge? Ask these questions of yourself and see what your answers are. So one thing we can say for certain, isn't it, in terms of Buddhist refuge, the Buddhist refuge is not something external to us. That's not there's no object outer of our senses that is our refuge. So the refuge has to be mind itself. It is the undisciplined mind that creates our suffering. It's the mind that's disciplined under your control that produces your happiness, your sense of peace and ease. That's your refuge. It's always been our refuge, the mind. We've got to come back to that. Remember that. We create our own suffering, we create our own happiness. If we create suffering, we don't have a refuge. So we need to come back to all the good qualities of the mind. That's our refuge. Doing so, of course, when we look at the Buddha, or remember how we create merit. The merit is just like a positive state of mind, positivity. It really does enliven our other practices. And it certainly does that. Like if you walk around a stupa, for instance, and think that the Buddhas are right there with you, or the Bodhisattvas are right beside you, makes it very easy to do things. Makes me quite happy. That makes it. And also, never forget that you're never alone. Buddha's always with you. You're always known by a Buddha. So I think there's something in the Bible, isn't there? If anybody's familiar with it, where they say, I think it said, where there's 3 or 4 people gather in my name, I am there. Same sort of thing is said in the Buddha Dharma too. You see, just remember my name, and I'm there. You just call my name. You recite this mantra, I'm there. So this again, so you don't think the Buddhas and so forth are something separate from us. Not separate, independent, objectively existing. Yeah, so like I said, so for me, I remember this, we were looking at what a Buddha is, his qualities. One of the qualities of the mind is that it's omniscient, which means if an object exists or doesn't, the Buddha knows. That's what an omniscient mind does. If there's anything to be known, it knows it. That's what omniscient means. So then you go, well, do you exist? If you say yeah, so well, the Buddha knows you then, doesn't he? And you go, and Buddha is not like the person. Buddha is mind, awakened mind, fully qualified mind. But that's what we're able to do, right? That's what the goal is. So again, you can feel quite relaxed and at ease and go, wow, it's fantastic. Buddha's right here. I'm known by Buddha. I'm an object of the Buddha's thought and expression and kindness and love. And of course, it also leads into a preparation for Tantra, where visualization is very, very important. So these are just some of the reasons why the Buddha is seen to be, at least from Lama Tsongkhapa's point of view, a very important object of meditation. That's the one he recommends. But like I was saying, for us, probably breath is the place to start, or the body, something easier. Yep.
Sorry, I have to ask.
Yeah.
If we're talking about health, death.
Yeah.
How do you overcome, let's say, the death of a relative that was very close to you?
I just took the last one. You said, how
do you overcome suffering of a death, let's say your mother or father?
It's okay. So how do you overcome like your own suffering?
Suffering from other relatives' death.
Okay. I've got so many answers, I can't pull one out. So I think from where our perspective is, first of all, you have to acknowledge that we will suffer when those close to us die. In fact, I've also read of great Dharma practitioners who suffered greatly. Mapa, for instance, when his son died, right? The Mapa was seen as like enlightened being. He was the teacher of Milarepa. Yet Mapa's son was killed in a sort of an accident. And Mapa's students said to him, it's very strange if you're so upset with the death of your son, when you have taught us for years that death is just like an illusion. So Mapa's response was terrific. He says, yes, I have taught you that death is an illusion, but the death of the child is the greatest illusion.
Okay.
And that's why it's so hard to get, affected. So my advice would be we should accept this suffering and not think of it as something bad or wrong or anything like that, and try to get some insight into it. Like, for instance, ask yourself, who's suffering? and you'll say me. And you'll say, this is me. Where is it? Is this me, the body, suffering? And you probably go, no.
Oh, it's in my mind.
Yeah. Well, is the suffering, so you say the suffering is in my mind? Where? So we look for the suffering that's in our mind. And what you find is no suffering in the mind. That's what you find. When my wife died, so I'd been to Buddhism about 18 months at a time, and I studied a lot of death and impermanence, and I thought I'd be fine, and I wasn't. And I discovered it's nothing like the books. When somebody close to you dies, it's not like reading stuff in Dharma books. So I got quite depressed, I was sad, and I remember this time. So what made me feel better was having hot showers. So I used to hop on the shower. I'd bring out my kitchen chair, put it in the shower, and I'd sit on the chair and just have the hot water streaming down. And I'd be sitting there, and I remember sort of like crying in the shower, the hot water, and then asking myself, like, who was it who died? And this discovery of finding no one. And it was amazing because it was like, there was this sadness and grief, and then in this finding no one, like, I started laughing. It was so weird. I've never forgotten that. Like, wow, how you can just shift from one state where it seems, the grief is so hard, heavy on your heart, and it hurts. And then if you can analyze it, you can think, which is not easy to do many times. If you're grieving, it's hard to think. Right? So it's like you start asking questions about yourself or the person who's died. And you don't find, what you find is your own ideas, basically. And your ideas are not the person. In fact, I remember later on when I had to give a talk in a big AIDS gathering. And I had my talk all set up, and on the way, I was thinking about, thinking, well, who was this girl I was married to? Who was this girl that I loved? And I was sitting there thinking about it, thinking, I don't really know. All I know is my own ideas of who she was. I've been relating to my own ideas and not actually the person.
But sorry, I have to stop you.
Yeah.
We also miss the presence of her or him in a physical form.
Yes, we do. Yep, we do. And that you'll really feel that, that's for sure. Yeah. So again, so with that, then you can apply, well, there's lots of things from there. What you could do is you could go, okay, this is a karmic manifestation. If I'm suffering, the causes have got to be coming from me, from past lives and all that sort of stuff. Right? Okay, that's great. This explains that. But that doesn't help you a great deal. So what I found was really helpful was what they call Tong Len, giving and taking practice. So when you feel the pain of people you're close, you feel pain with those you've loved have gone, right? That absence really hurts, doesn't it? It's strange. So you realize, oh my God, everybody feels that. Look, let me take it. Give me more of that. Let me have all the pain of the absence that's felt by those who are alive in response to those deceased. Let me have that. And then you imagine it coming into your heart area here and just breaking apart your indifference. And just do it on the in-breath and out-breath. So I found that was very useful for me. That was the most simplest practice I could do, was just to go to Tong Len. Because most of the times it's hard to think when you're in grief. But you can't deny the hurt you feel. So it was easy to work with the hurt you feel.
Thank you.
Now, what we can do here is you can conjoin stabilization and analysis, and you can do it in two ways. You can do the stabilizing first and then the analysis, or you can do the analysis first and then the stabilizing. Both ways work, just depends upon what the object is. Having drawn forth an experience that transforms the mind, this might be through analysis, one must place the mind intently within that experience without analysis. Now, we do this whenever we get depressed or anxious. Right? You think about something that might happen, or something that's terrible, or something that has happened, and then you stop thinking and the mind stays on what you've been thinking about. This is particularly in terms of grief. Right? That's what we do, isn't it? We think about the loved one who's gone, the absence, all that stuff is thinking, and then we stop thinking, and we just rest our mind on what we've been thinking. Right? So that's analysis and stabilization. And well, it doesn't feel good when you do it like that. So that's analysis and then stabilizing. You can also do stabilizing and then analysis. Well, that means you've got to find your object first. You place your mind on that object, and then you start thinking about it from different perspectives, asking questions about it. And when you find that the mind moves off, you relax a bit again, and you bring the mind back to it. You go, okay, that's the object I'm thinking about. Now I go back to do the analysis again. Now, analytical meditation, it enables us to penetrate an object through reasoning. Now, we might not know how to reason about this object. That's okay. A lot of it's in the text already. It's already set down there. And if you're unsure, you just go to the teacher and ask them, how am I meant to reason about this? What am I meant to think about it? So, and I'll bring you through one of the types of reasonings that we will have a look at shortly. Now, the benefits of this is to bring about a deep, transformative understanding. And it will. So just thinking now of how you can do this with meditation on selflessness or emptiness. So imagine if you're sitting there quite relaxed, and you're breathing normally and naturally. And you just move your awareness off the breath and just like have the awareness sort of open out so you can hear everything. As you're aware, can you find a person who is aware? Or is it just awareness? Within the field of awareness, can you see the person? Or is it just awareness? Do you see a self or a person who is aware? Or is it just awareness? So who's aware? And when the I appears, when you say I'm aware, just place the mind on the I. Now, how does I seem to exist? Can the I exist like that? Okay, just let go, just drop the whole thing. So when I ask you, first of all, just to become aware, right? So like you're sitting here like this is it sounds. You brought your awareness, if you focus on it inwardly, what's there? You find an observer there. Are you aware of an observer of what's being observed? What are your answers? It's just awareness, isn't there? Right? There's just awareness. But then when I ask you, like, so who's aware? Right now, I pops up, doesn't it? And how does the I that pops up appear to you? Does it appear to be awareness? No, doesn't appear to be awareness. Well, no, we could say all that, yeah, but what I want to try and do here is not so much. So again, who's aware of that? Who's aware of ego? Who is aware that they have a mind? Who has a mind? That's be us, isn't it? I do. It all except to me, I. But the thing is, what I'm asking is like, how does the I appear to you?
When you asked that during the meditation, I got an image of myself, but it was fuzzy, and I was like, well, that's just a concept. It's not even like, that's the first instinct. Like I want to say, oh, that's me, but it's actually just an idea of me. It's not real. Like it's
This is an interesting thing, Debbie. So first of all, like, so when I think when this happened to me, I was like, oh, there's I pops up, right? But before that, it didn't. It was just like awareness, right? As soon as you go like I, so when you say I, that's a name, right? Yeah.
The I is just an illusion.
No, I is a name. It's not an illusion. It's not. It's an illusion. But I've asked, it's an illusion. What type of illusion is it?
But if you think that everybody is one and the self does not exist in.
Yeah, but we're not doing that. We're not thinking about that. I'm trying to get like this experiential thing, right? So we said I. Before we said I, there was no I. Right? Then you say I. Right? Now, does the I exist? Well, yes, it does. Right? It does. I is the name that we give to ourselves. I is the name we give to our body and mind. This exists. Like I said, when I asked you, who's aware of that? You'd have to say, I do. I am. And that exists. Right? The question is not whether it exists or not, it's how it exists. Right? So when I said, so how does the I appear to you? Where do I say I? Right? Like it just pops out, doesn't it? And it's like, there's awareness and there's I. They're two separate things. That's how it appears. Yeah.
Sorry, just have to interrupt you again.
Yeah.
But all I meant before is when you say I mean, you reach a very high awareness, like a Buddha.
Yeah.
The I just disappeared.
I know. Remember in the text of the Buddha would say, when I blah blah blah. Yeah? So he uses I, and the Buddha used the term I, referring to himself.
Well, he was referring to himself when he was before reaching enlightenment.
Well, I didn't even refer to say like, I am going into town now I'm going on an arms round. That I exists. It's a conventionality. It's something that we all agree upon. Yeah, there's the Buddha over there. You would say, I'm over here. Nothing wrong with that at all. That's how he exists. Buddha does exist. We exist. We have this name, I. So this is what I find very interesting with enough study to see that the I pop up, just naming it, right? And go, wow, I just said I, and it seems to be independent of my awareness. It seems to be like there's a phenomenal me, and then there's the awareness. But that's how it appears. But it cannot exist like that. That's the illusion. We said the illusion is separate from consciousness, separate from the awareness. That's the illusion. Not that I exist. That's not an illusion. I does exist. It's how it exists. That's illusory. It seems to be something separate from us, from, like the I. I is not my body. I is not my mind. And you go, that's right. It's not. It's not something separate from the mind. Right? It's not one and the same. It's not something completely separate or different. Yeah.
What is your idea?
It will. The only time it doesn't is when you actually look at how the I exists. So we take this I that seems to have this independent, solid existence, which is the illusion, right? And now we have to see, well, is it illusory? Because it seems to be real. And then we analyze. We analyze this seeming reality, and when you do, then it vanishes again. And you go, it doesn't have any true existence. It exists in mere name. This is a wonderful discovery, how phenomena exist in mere name. They're not the body, they're not the mind, they exist in mere name. It's the same if you do the mind. Try and find the mind. You won't find one. Buddha never found the mind, and no one's ever found the mind. But it's the same with the I, but you don't find them. They're not truly existent. They existed, their appearance and their existence are different. Yeah.
A comment from Anthea, she said that when her sister passed away, and her sister had experienced a lot of suffering, Anthea meditated on her sister's best qualities and her most joyful memories of her. And also she really concentrated on putting her sister into a peaceful environment, such as a pure land or an enlightened state, so that she could help her sister sort of see what love and joy feels like. And she generated a lot of feelings like that from her sister in meditation, everyday activities. And that's what her practice was.
Thank you, Anthea. Thank you for sharing that with us. So this is how we can use this idea of analysis and placement. When we do these meditations on the selflessness of persons, we're looking at our identity and seeing it's the two truths about it. It's conventional truth and its ultimate truth. Its ultimate truth is that, not that it doesn't exist at all, it's just the ultimate truth is that it has no inherent existence and it's not findable under analysis. The conventional truth of ourselves is we exist in mere name, as a name, a label given to the body and mind. That's it. But what I find really interesting, although that is the case, as soon as you ask yourself, well, who's observing it? And you go like, I. As soon as you say it, like it pops out, it's true, that's right. That's the name. It pops out, and now it takes on an appearance or existence, which in fact it doesn't have. That's what I found really interesting. You go, oh man, there it is. You give it the name, and suddenly it's more than a name.
Michael its
It
own.
has a life of its own, and it seems to be like right there. It's me. What they often, or what I've read of one of the way they say you can help with this yourself in this meditation. They say meditators have been analysing for a long time. They'll go out into crowds and get jostled. Right? So their sense of I arises. And they can see it again. Ah, there it is. Yeah. I'm in the crowd, but this false appearance of I is arising. Right? Like you say, I don't like this. Right? So as soon as you say it, isn't it? I don't like this, you'd go, well, that's not my mind, and that's not my body. I'm talking about me. Right? So there again. The me exists in name, but now it's got more than name. So Lama calls it as the great hallucination. You know, we're hallucinating. Something exists, but not the way it's appearing to us. I can see I've gone way over time talking to you. I thought I would never do this because I got the flu. Today it won't be like that, but hang on. In terms of analysis and the topics you can meditate on, one of the most common and deepest and most powerful, along with emptiness or selflessness, is impermanence. And in fact, subtle impermanence can lead you very, very close to finding the selflessness of a person. Because if you think about this, it's momentariness is its meaning, arising in the first moment and disintegrating in just that moment. So not remaining from the time of the first moment to the second moment. It's hard to get your head around, isn't it? And so in fact, when you learn this, they don't teach it to you straight up like this. They go there's a moment that has a beginning and a middle and an end. And all moments have just like that, but the beginning is not separate from the middle, and the middle is not separate from the end. And neither is the end separate from the beginning. It's quite interesting when you put this stuff together again, what you find is the mind, just like it did with ourselves, it reifies things. So when we say a moment, how does it appear to you? Yeah, that's right. As a unit, a single thing. And what's around it? Nothing. That's right, isn't it? It's just a single thing, like out there in space, just like just like me. That's the reification process of the mind. It takes whatever you name and goes out there, nothing else. Independent, objective. But there's nothing that exists like that. So this phenomena here, it's so weird, isn't it? You think about like moments that are coming into existence and going out at the very same time. So there's an appearance, but it's like flicker out. But there's so many of them going so quickly, it looks like something solid, continuous. Like for us, right? So we're made up of atoms. So atoms are impermanent, changing. There's more space in an atom than there is the atom. And yet here we are all looking like really solid beings, right? And stable. Doesn't look like we're changing, does it? But we are. So there's a discrepancy again between appearance and the reality. The reality is that every atom in that make up this phenomenon called the body is covered and going out of existence, ding, 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 like that. One way we can know this is the case is that every 7 years you have a completely different body. Everything in your body once there is not there anymore, but it always looks like it's still there, doesn't it? But it's completely different. Every organ within the body has its own momentum of change and changes. Well, after 7 years, everything's completely different.
In fact, for us just to move, that's changing, isn't it?
So, good.
Even for us just to move, we have to be changing.
Yeah, that's right.
Because otherwise we couldn't do anything.
No, that's right. And so everything is like this. It is everything that's produced, depending on cause and conditions. That's basically everything we know. It's not everything, but mostly. So what establishes this? Well, if you could develop your awareness well enough, you could actually experience it yourself. But until that takes place, you use reasoning. So the subject here is take a product. A product is something that produced depend upon causes and conditions. The predicate is it is characterized by disintegration from the first moment of its existence. We go like, why? What's the reason? Because it arose from its own causes with the essential nature of disintegrating without relying on some alternate cause of disintegration. So, you know, sometimes, like for instance, we could use the person. Is a person a good one? Yeah, person's okay. So if we take a person, right? So they're alive, like us, and then suddenly they're shot dead. Right? That's the end of the person. Right? They're dead. And they might lie there for a little bit, but it's not a person anymore. Now it's a corpse. Right? And over time, that body will disintegrate completely, right? Goes back to its elements. But we're doing the same thing. The same thing's happening to us while we're alive. Otherwise, we wouldn't get old. And that's what they say. One of the lovely things in the text, they say, thank goodness aging takes time over a period of time and you don't actually see it because of how shocking it would be if it took place like that. Right? Yeah, and I use this like going into town, I used to see buildings get knocked down, you know, and you go, oh, there's impermanence, but it's something else going to crash, isn't it? Knocking it down. Right? But actually, it doesn't have to do that. Just leave it there for 10,000 years and it won't be there after 10,000 years. There's so many cities in the world, you know, like you got to have a look at them, the old ones. Right? People didn't have to destroy them. Time itself will take care of it. They just fall apart. So the lovely thing so it's not a bad thing, it's just the way it is. So impermanence, we can use this understanding to counteract the delusions. So when we stabilize, we rest the mind on impermanence, it just stops you grasping permanence. There's no permanence in impermanence. When we use the analysis, now you start reasoning it, thinking through, go, wow, there's no permanence there. And the lovely thing about it also is that the awareness of the impermanence of this life and what's called death gets you to start doing something about it. So what can I do? What can I do in the face of impermanence? Is there anything I can do? And you can say, yeah, you could stop the suffering that you create for yourself by grasping at permanence where there is none. So, you know, one of the major causes for our grief, for instance, is not recognizing the impermanence of one's brothers, sisters, wives, loved ones, oneself. Because it doesn't look like we're changing. It looks like we're going to be stable. We're going to be here for a long time. That's not the case. The other lovely thing about impermanence is that you can use it to oppose desire and anger. So the objects that you desire are disintegrating from moment to moment to moment. You know, so to think that you have a lovely partner in terms of their shape, colour, so forth, right? And this is what you love, that's a mistake. That's not a good idea to have, right? Because you understand, no, they're subject to change. Why? Because this reason. It's also great for objects of anger, or when you feel angry yourself. You know your anger can't stay the same. You cannot remain angry all the time. It's impossible. You can't remain sad all the time. It's impossible. You can't be sick all the time. All these phenomena are subject to change. So it's sort of like, you can look on the bad side, you can look on the good side. It's up to you. So first one, now, when you try to meditate, whether it be on impermanence or emptiness or whatever the topic is, it's not going to be easy. What happens is if the mind is restless, it can't stay on its object. So what can we do? Well, cultivate few desires, be mindful. So mindfulness means remember. Be vigilant, notice it, and then perhaps even breath work. When the mind is restless, the simplest way to overcome mental restlessness is to focus your mind on breathing. Breathing is a neutral object and it calms you right down. It's the simplest object of all. Now, along with restlessness, sometimes you have regret. And again, breath work is one of the best things you can do because regret is mental activity. So you need to get out of the mind and just get into a neutral object and you'll calm down. Prostrations will really help here. Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to be thinking of something else and doing prostrations. And pay attention to either something else or what's going on inside you and how you're creating disturbance for yourself. Recollect impermanence, kindness, especially towards yourself. Compassion, and also what they call the four opponent powers. So these 7 types of behaviors will help you overcome both of these two phenomena. And a distraction, there's a number of different things you can do. One of them is just what they say, investigate the character. So this is my usual go-to. Like when stuff's going on inside you, just turn your attention towards it. Look at it. Find out what is that. It's like for me, like I said, it's the simplest thing. You just pay attention. What's going on? Mindfulness, again, remember what to do. Vigilance, where this is going on, what else is going on? This is called vigilance. They often is a new term called a metacognition. We become aware of the bigger picture, the whole picture. Mindfulness, I remember what to do, what's going on. Metacognition, vigilance. And again, come back to the breath work. Well, I'm sorry, I've been talking so much. I had all these meditations to do as well. And of course, when you're distracted, this will get you focused. Nothing like thinking you're going to die in the very next moment. That'll stop you going all over the place. Yeah. There are some other opponents and other things you're going to meet up. So the simplest way to overcome sleepiness is have a sleep. You haven't slept enough, have a sleep. Sleep enough. Exercise is another great way to overcome sleepiness. Adjust your seat. Meaning sometimes you should get up out of your seat, go for a walk around, put water on your face, wash up, come back down, and maybe even take a different seat. So what I often do is like sit, I get all that, stand up, do the meditation standing. But if I'm lying down, stop lying down, because lying down makes you think of sleep, doesn't it? And so get up. There's lots of things you can do. Another one is to like imagine a sphere of light above you and the light pervading your whole body and mind. So it's not easy to sleep with the lights on, is it? You have to be very tired. So if you can imagine light washing all through you, that'll invigorate you, wake you up. Another hindrance to meditation is what we call expectation. So the number one thing there is to relax. Except it takes time to develop qualities. It takes time to understand the Dharma and to put it into practice. And of course, this is another way of being kind to yourself. And kind to oneself is compassion again. It doesn't help to expect too much of your practice or of other people. Now just pause there and say, what's interesting? So today it's like 8 weeks of classes going into one day today. So I have gone over time, folks.
Earlier, Anthony said, so in a way, death is impermanent.
Yeah, that's right. Death isn't permanent. In fact, death is like one moment. If you think about it. So we've done all of our work, and as we'll see today, what you do at the end is you go, okay, so I've done all this meditation work. What was the purpose again? Oh yeah, enlightenment or liberation or something, but probably enlightenment, right? I've been meditating on this topic to become enlightened. So what's the nature of a dedication? Well, as you can see, it's a wish that the energy I've put into these practices never be lost. And it actually works as a complete cause for Buddhahood. What are you dedicating? Your virtue. Why? So it won't be lost. What's the aim? Buddhahood. For whose sake? All beings. And how? By uniting the method and the wisdom. So everything that we've been doing, or nearly everything we've done today, is method, right? When you come to dedicate, that's method. We have to integrate it with wisdom. The wisdom of what? Selflessness or emptiness, the wisdom that realizes the ultimate nature of all these phenomena. So the act of dedication is an antidote to wrong views. So as Holiness says, so please seal the dedication by reflecting that you as the agent, the merit you are dedicating, the awakening you are dedicating to attain, and the sentient beings you wish to benefit are all without any established nature, being empty of existing from their own side, but exist dependently in mere name. So this is the thing. So for me, I find this quite, you can do this with a chair or you can do it with yourself. Right? Look for yourself within the body and mind. You won't find yourself there. Look for a chair within the parts of the chair. It's not there. Right? Look within the merit of everything. Look for the merit of everything we've done. You won't find it there. Does that mean it doesn't exist? No. It means it's not, it can't be found from the side of the basis. It's not there. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. How does it exist? It depends upon name. All things exist like that. So it's not non-existent, it's existent conventionally upon the names and upon consciousness. That's how they exist. So we try and bring those two together. Otherwise, you find yourself clinging to these phenomena to really exist when in fact they don't. So that's how we pull them together. Now, in the beginning, if you're new to this stuff, as you can see, it's a lot of work, isn't it? A lot to remember. But yeah, we need to integrate the method and the wisdom. So I hope you know what meditation is and the purposes of it. There's different types of motivations you can bring to it. And of course, there's plenty of objects you can meditate on. So until we meet again, do the breathing meditations. They're really simple. They're very beneficial. Yeah. If you can, meditate on Shakyamuni Buddha. But like I said, all you need is a general appearance, and it's the eyes you want to focus on. And find your own faults when you meditate. You'll never get better at this unless you can actually work out what's not going so well for you. You've got to find your own faults, what's not working out. And you don't blame yourself for the faults. Next time we meet, we'll go right through the whole Buddhist path for about 8 weeks, and it's a biggie. And it gives you a complete overview of the whole thing. So let's do our dedication now. Okay, let's join me in saying, due to the merits of these virtuous actions, they are quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And as long as space remains, and as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the sorrows of the world. And finally, a prayer for the return of the person we once knew as Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So in holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make this request. Okay, that's the end of our class for today. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your questions. And for those online, thank you for contributing and for watching, listening, and asking questions and suggesting stuff. Thank you very much.